Welcome to this vidcast of Integrity Matters by Turnitin, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Professor Nicholas Fisk, Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research from UNSW. Professor Fisk, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So first question, do you want to tell us a little bit about your role as DVC research and your priorities?
Sure. So I look after the strategic leadership and the operational support for the research footprint at UNSW. It's a fantastic job. So you obviously look after the external income, all the sort of support bits, you know, the grants and ethics and all that sort of stuff. You look after the infrastructure and you look after the performance, both, you know, our drive to move up the rankings and in particular the focus on quality research.
Obviously, you've had a long, distinguished career in medicine and research. What kind of drew you to research in particular? What made you want to stay in the field of research all this time?
So I did medicine as a youngster. I guess, you know, partly the old thing, you want to help people, but to be honest, probably it's because my father was a doctor and I'm competitive. It was the toughest thing to get into was medicine at the University of Sydney, so that's what I did. I guess the real thing that fascinated me was reproductive biology, so reproduction, fetal medicine. And that, amazing, you start off with one individual and you produce two scientifically. Clinically, it's a great mixture of medicine and surgery, practical stuff and thinking. It's an ideal specialty to marry clinical practice and research science. And then as your career matures, there's so many fascinating things. You know, you can move from a focus on curing the patient, which is important, but the bigger picture question of curing the disease.
You've mentioned just before about the importance of upholding quality within research in your role. How does research integrity form? Is it a priority as part of that, and how highly do you rank it?
So yes, it's a priority, but one of several priorities. They don't compete though. So good research practice is good research. Good data management is good research. Sound ethical practice is good research. And good research leads to robust findings, and that's what makes a difference to society.
And what do you think is needed to ensure a culture of integrity at a university?
James, what's really crucial here is a whole of institution ecosystem. So a culture that is bottom up, that is top down and in from the sides as well. It's really robust. I mean, I guess in medical terms, it's really preventative medicine. Prevention is better than cure from any nastiness downstream. And we do that through onboarding, we do it through training, we do it through supervision, we do it through peer review, we do it through appraisal. Right across the board, an alpha to omega approach.
So looking at Australian research a bit more broadly, what do you think the biggest challenges are right now to ensuring research integrity across the sector as a whole?
Sure. So firstly, I think we need to understand that, what's the word, disintegrity. It is pretty rare. The vast majority of researchers pursue research of high standards. Now, of course, you know, there are those that funding cuts, etc., are tempted to cut corners or even worse, and we've got to absolutely stamp down on that sort of behaviour. Our role is to facilitate full compliance, to set the tone across the board, to act as a gatekeeper. We need to provide a safe environment to ensure we get all our researchers obtain high quality, reproducible results.
So one of the hot topics at the moment is the potential of an Office of Research Integrity, a national regulator. Australia doesn't currently have one, the US does, and I know a number of countries in Asia do as well. Do you have any views on that subject?
Sure. There is no case for such an office, in my view, in Australia. And you won't find anyone calling for this in Australia who's involved in research compliance or is part of one of the major funding agencies. We already have a national body for compliance and complaints, the Australian Research Integrity Council, ARIC. In fact, true research misconduct, you know, falsification or fabrication, is actually very rare. Recent figures from the group of 8 universities, the leading research universities, show there's about 1 case per year of falsification and fabrication per university. Now, compare that, say, with the US, where they do have such an office. So NIH and NSF funding, $70 billion a year. They have roughly 20 cases of research misconduct along those lines. Yet we have 8 for $1 billion of funding. There's absolutely no basis for any accusation that the research numbers in Australia are the tip of an iceberg. It's almost the opposite. We have a pretty good process in Australia with universities investigating such cases. And I would stress for those who think that universities are covering these things up, and why would you do so? Anything that's of value must be reproducible to affect society, etc. At the university level, anything serious denied by the researcher goes to an external inquiry, independent of the university. They make the call, the finding, and then the university implements the penalty, etc. So I don't see how this would be very different at all.
So essentially another layer of bureaucracy, another layer of another expensive body to fund, and there's enough happening at a university level now that you think that it's not needed.
Yes, and there'd be a major issue funding, particularly if it's going to duplicate processes. It would be more expensive. And already the office in the US has a huge backlog that they can't cope with the workload.
Do you think there is some validity in people saying there needs to be more transparency from episodes that are uncovered? Yeah,
look, this is an issue we struggle with because of confidentiality, privacy laws, duties to the employee that are enshrined in enterprise bargaining agreements. So this doesn't affect how we react to any real finding of research misconduct, but it does affect what we're able to say, both under enterprise bargaining and under potential for litigation, etc.
Okay. Professor Fisk, thank you very much today.
Okay.
And that is, hope you enjoyed today's episode of Integrity Matters.